Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Aysh Banaysh, and in this video I'm just going to be letting you know how I ruin my life and showing you how you can ruin yours in half the time. So a good way to start this video is probably to let you know where I'm at. I'm currently a self-employed, aka not really doing anything psychology graduate with a dead mum, a paper I can't publish, and a bad case of brain rot. I'm about to turn 30 with no clue where I'm going in life, only an inkling of where I want to go, and a ton of anxiety stopping me even set off. How did I get here? I'm not really sure if I can explain it, but basically like 5 years ago I had a successful body piercing business with an online store which somehow didn't get screwed up by the pandemic, but I did. And so with all the impulse and not a whole lot of thinking, I decided to close the business that I'd spent the last 5 years before that building to focus on doing a psychology degree, which I decided to do while off my face and hadn't really thought through a lot. And while I don't regret it, I don't think putting my life in limbo for the last 3 years really helped. I started that degree while I was in a period of autistic burnout, and so I didn't really have much for life outside of that degree. I didn't really think about what I'd do after it ended. Not because now I have a degree, because I was never going to university to change my career. I was just doing that in a completely unrelated way because I hate myself. And so all of this, like the closing my business, the being burnt out, the being surrounded by young people who know what they want to do in life, and probably some other stuff as well, has all come together to make me overthink absolutely fucking everything, to the point that I've become a shell of myself that's ruled by fear and doesn't do anything. And at the same time as all this is going on, my family is basically disintegrating before my eyes, and my relationship with my mum got worse, and that would be like totally fixable and not life ruining, except in my 3rd year she killed herself. And now I'm left looking back on that relationship, thinking about all the things I said and all the things I did that I can never take back, while having an existential crisis about what the fuck I'm doing with my life, which is basically my full-time job now since I graduated, and realised that all that you should publish this feedback was bullshit because no one wants to publish my paper, which leaves me not knowing what to do with my life because I've spent the last few months lying to myself, telling myself that a PhD might fulfill me, and it's not even that it doesn't interest me, I just know deep down that it's too caged in. And so that leaves me regretting closing my business, but also knowing that I'm not the same person I was then, and even if some of my reasons for closing were really fucking stupid in hindsight, some of them are really fucking valid. And one of those things is literally that I felt too caged in and unable to explore other things, which is why I secretly know that I want to focus on creating, but I've just been too afraid to actually pursue that because I've been a shell of myself, or who I was, which I sit and tell myself is from all the burnout and the changes and all the other stuff I just told you, but I know deep down is from trauma I tell myself I've dealt with. And to an extent that's true, but only in the sense that I've cut the poison ivy from the hold it had around my brain, not in the sense I've actually addressed the root of it so that it doesn't keep growing when I don't tend to it. But my fear of shame and embarrassment stops me admitting any of this, even to myself, because that feels weak and vulnerable, and the thing that traumatized me in the first place made me really not like feeling vulnerable. And when I was making progress on actually dealing with this shit, a new trauma dropped, and it's like the progress bar just went back to 0. And I didn't have the energy to keep uprooting poisonous seeds that had been planted in my head because I was just focused on trying not to drown in my grief. And somehow I've survived all this and even got halfway to sober, except now I indulge in biscuits and takeout, which means I'm super unhappy with my body as well as my career and my relationships, and I'm not even high enough to ignore any of it. And on top of all that, I'm about to turn 30, which can be an existential crisis in itself, but I do take some pride in the fact I was already having one. But the idea of turning 30 and entering a new decade of my life is definitely making it feel bigger and more important, because I never thought I'd make it to 30, so I'm even more like, what the fuck do I do now? And so here I am, not really doing anything, but trying to figure out what I want to do and how to deal with all the stuff I haven't dealt with and how to stop being a shell of myself. And I realised that I just need to get over my fear of shame and embarrassment and start doing something. But even though I know that, and I've known that for a long time, it's really hard to actually do. I know that other people probably deal with this shit, and from a content perspective, there are people who would never feel comfortable to put themselves out there and make content or make YouTube videos. But I think the fact that I did and now I don't is what gets me. I saw the Chronic Iconic, aka Jess, doing a pushback on Instagram to try and get herself back, and it made me realise that it's not just me and I can at least try and do something about it. She said something like maybe she'll never get back to her old self, but she can at least try and sculpt her current state into something she likes, or something like that. And she's right. So much has changed over the last 5 years, and I've changed so much, and not all for the worse, and I can either work with that or I can keep romanticising a past that I don't even want while complaining about where I'm at. And as much as I love complaining, it's getting kind of boring. I might not know what I want to do or what I want to create, but I'll never know if I don't make anything. I miss writing, and when I was writing about my mum, I felt closer to my old self. But I don't want to just write about my grief, and I don't want to just make videos on piercings. But I think feeling that I needed to stick to that niche was a big part of why I stopped making videos. And the fear, obviously, because if a piercing video did shit, it was just like, that's fine, that's safe, it's a video on piercings. But making video content and being video content are like 2 different things, you know? And if a personal video does shit, it kind of hurts. I think we sit and tell ourselves that we don't care what other people think and you shouldn't care what other people think, but I think you do, at least to some extent. And even beyond that, like when you make more personal content, there is some emotional labor in it. And you want that emotional labor to pay off, as you want all labor to pay off. But yeah, it's one thing when you make the content, it's another thing when you are the content. But yeah, like I had this with writing for a while. Like if I wasn't writing some like super SEO juiced up article on how to whatever, like, you know, something with a purpose, I just felt really vulnerable and exposed. But in reality, that's the kind of stuff I like to write. It's the same with making memes and art, and like I even watched my first ever TikTok, and I've never been someone who is like, I can just do a video any day and I will not wear makeup and I will be authentic and blah blah whatever. But like it was so much less overthought than anything I've made since then. And you can still tell that I'm not like a natural on camera. I don't really find this easy. I find it a lot easier if I don't look at it, but I think my phone has been upside down the whole time I've been filming this. But yeah, it was just way easier when I didn't overthink everything so much. Like I am naturally an anxious person and an overthinker, so I'm not going to expect myself to not overthink things at all. But like it was just easier. And even though that TikTok has like way less views than some of my other TikToks, like that was real life stuff. That was non-targeted. That was just what was on my brain that day. So in conclusion, the stuff I like may be boring and cringe to some, but so what? Making stuff I like would be a lot more fun to make, and maybe someone else will like it too, but I'll never know if I don't do it. So here I am, trying to unfuck my life and figure out what I want to do with it. Feel free to join me. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, drop a comment if you relate or have something to say, and I'll see you in the next video.